He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick done on third down.
Winky looking. Winky wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He does a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield to the 30. To the 20. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Kermit Whitfield. A 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Close to pass on the other.
It's caught. It's caught. It's caught.
For the end zone battle. Coleman. Touchdown.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
Thursday night, Garden Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem. I'm Ryan. That's Vince. How are you today?
Doing great. Every Thursday night, here we are, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got a big game this week, Ryan. I know we're going to have a little bit of chat about last week as well. Kind of wrap that one up, hopefully. I'm kind of tired of talking about that game.
Yeah, I mean, really it comes down to just in general, Boston College, the big talk. Vince, had we not started fumbling and not falling on squib kicks and all that fun stuff, probably the most likely outcome of that game is something like 38-17, something in that realm. And you would be like, oh, it was just a kind of a toss away game, nothing special, but we would be in no way worried. But just because we had a few miscues, right? And
you get that? The whole store got the flu.
the whole store got the flu. Hit it again, Vince.
You get that? The whole store got the flu.
Half the team had the flu, not feeling well. The performance was subpar, but it felt to me like they had it turned on until it was 31-10, and then they said, we got this, and they kind of went to the bench all good, and then you had to kind of re-engage and reignite, which is hard to do, especially if you have a lot of illness on your team from the flu. So any worries, Vince, going into this Clemson week about the Boston College game?
Here's what I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about the team being focused, not worried about the coaches taking the game for granted, not worried about any of that. I may be a little still concerned about lingering effects of.
You get that? The whole store got the flu.
So we'll see what happens with that. But other than that, I don't really have any lingering worries about it. We were already talking about the running game not being great. So I was already concerned about that. That's nothing specific about the Boston College game. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'm still concerned about is everybody healthy.
Absolutely. And, it's funny that I think everyone's probably going to be okay. The sickness is probably, done its worst. Heard nothing in practice saying any players are still feeling under the weather or anything like that. And we are getting some players back for the Clemson week. So,
yeah,
I mean,
the
two offensive line, right?
The depth chart says that, but I've known that we've seen people on depth charts before that didn't end up playing. So the depth chart says that they are available to play. And so the question is whether they're going to play. I think that plays a big part into the running game.
Yeah, the center position especially.
Absolutely. Our ability to run the ball, that is going to play a huge part in that. And so we'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful.
Last week we had a couple low snaps too. Like there was one that Jordan actually had to pick up off the ground, which, one more problem and it's fumbled and the other team gets the ball. So I think getting a center back or starting center back is huge if that indeed holds up based on the depth chart. And I'm really interested, Vince. One thing I've noticed, and we've only seen 3 games. So what's going on with Biscuit? Why is he not playing? I mean, I get playing, of course you're going to play Jaheim Bell, right? But Kyle Morlock, sure, he's fine. But to me, I can't believe Biscuit's not in there. And I'm hoping that changes this week.
Yeah, again, it goes back to, and I talked about this last night on the V Drive show. Is the problem that we have too many toys to play with?
Yeah.
I think that is playing into a lot of this. Morlock is a freak of an athlete as far as like physically, but you saw his effort in blocking this past weekend.
Yeah.
And we're already struggling running the ball. And Marquiston is the best blocker of that room. So why I have a feeling we're going to see.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think there's a lot of things we're going to see this week that we haven't seen from Florida State. I think if I were to guess, the game plan for Clemson has been long in development, and some wrinkles that we haven't seen, maybe some trick plays we haven't seen, formations. I think we were running a very vanilla version of the offense the last 2 weeks. We haven't really seen Jordan have design runs. Let him break free on some read options. And pick up some yardage and get out of bounds. I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and I think we're going to see a lot more focus. If I'm Mike Norvell, Vince, there is something to this too many toys to play with. I understand that you have a lot of mouths to feed here, but if I'm Mike Norvell and I'm going into Clemson, we're focusing it and getting the ball to Keon Coleman in as many different ways that we can get the ball to Keon Coleman. Underneath, over the top, little end arounds. He's a dynamic player. He needs to be given the ball. I don't agree with him going to social media and posting the 3 balls or whatever. That's what kids do these days. It's not a big deal. But I do agree with the sentiment that you have a player as talented as Keon Coleman, and I feel like Jordan is trying in his mind, like as he snaps the ball, like time to give this person love, time to give this person love. Sometimes, man, listen, we've seen teams that have one dominant wide receiver and they focus and they get tons of yards and touchdowns. Sometimes if you have a guy that is a step above the rest of your wide receivers, and I think we both agree we have good wide receivers aside from Coleman.
Definitely.
But it's Keon Coleman, and we've seen what he does with the ball in his hands. You got to get him more involved.
Well, you do, but also if you look at this past weekend, and again, you have to kind of grade it against the curve because who was sick, who wasn't, you don't know. But there were some effort things that showed up with Keon this past weekend. So again, it's just a blip in the radar, I hope. But you talk about Keon, you talk about Johnny had a pretty good game this past weekend.
Yeah.
But what about, I could probably count, as many times on one hand where Destin Hill is wide open.
Yes. And he tries to go to Johnny,
and he tries to go over the top.
Or Jaheim Bell.
So again, is that because we're trying to push it and we're trying to show things and not show other things? This whole thing can be a chess game that we're not privy to. Right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, we have to nitpick the things that we do see. We can only talk about the things that we see. We can speculate about the things that we don't see. We're not seeing Jordan take advantage of the intermediate routes.
The middle of the field has been ignored.
It's been totally ignored, except for save, schemed open Jaheim Bell.
Yeah.
Right. So again, if you're saying you're getting a little nervous about this weekend, I'm starting to feel a little better about this weekend because the more I've been thinking about this and the more I've been, extrapolating in my head, the more I'm getting to the point of these things are in the bag. They're in the play bag. They have not been utilized. They've done it a couple times, but they have not been utilizing. And I think we're going to see that. And if there's one thing that this coaching staff, Mike Norvell in particular, has shown that he'll do is for a big game, they're going to be buttoned up.
Yeah. We've seen it in every big game we played again, even games that we've lost, but we've come close to winning, some of which games we had no business even being in, as far as talent standpoint in the past couple of years. So it's fun because one thing I do love about Mike Norvell that you have to love if you're just a college football fan is if you tune into a primetime Florida State game against a really good opponent, you're going to see all kinds of formations. You're going to see tosses and reverses and flea flickers and odd looking formations. Mike Norvell loves to scheme him up some stuff. And I do believe, Vince, that some of the things that we've been like, oh, do we really need to toss the ball, twice on a toss play to Benson? Well, what you don't understand is there is also a pump toss where you don't actually toss it and then need to throw down the field. There's also a screen that could be to the left, like Johnny Wilson or something on the opposite side blocking for, right? There's other things that we can show based on what we've already seen that I just think haven't been shown yet. But one thing I do want to get to, Vince, because this has all been speculation as far as, what happened, why haven't we done certain things. So I want to focus in for a little bit. I want to talk about things we know. And when I say we know, we can take it to the bank. So first, I want to start off with our opponent, which obviously Clemson this weekend at noon, ABC primetime. I could say one thing. Here's what I know about Clemson. Shipley, he's going to get the ball. That's what I know. Because Cade Klubnik is not necessarily, I don't think he's bad, but I don't think he's elite. If I am Clemson, I'm feeding Shipley, man. And that guy can run, and he can run hard. And they showed a lot of issues when linebackers aren't communicating on our end, where I could see him getting a lot of yards in this game. And when he isn't, I think Cade is athletic enough to do a few QB draws up the middle. They've watched. We put some fun stuff on tape, as Mike Norvell said. There's some things that we put on tape that we wish we hadn't for future opponents. I think he's talking about some of that QB getting involved in the running game with no one in front of him, and so I think we got to stay in our lanes. But I think Shipley on the Clemson side is a known commodity that no matter what, he's going to get his. So what do you think from Clemson, Vince? What do you know?
I mean, Shipley is probably the one that you know. I mean, he's like 42 years old. He's been there forever, and he's a great player, and player that if he wasn't playing against us, I enjoy watching him play.
Yeah.
The other thing that I know is that Klubnik is he's not a statue. He's actually pretty decent in terms of ability, but he's not Castellano, and he's not Jaden Daniels. Right. So he can make some plays with his feet, but it's not going to be a 50-yard play. Right. It's going to be a 12-yard with his. So that I know. And I also know that he is not confident.
Yeah, not yet.
If you've watched their games, he is not a confident quarterback in the system. And I don't know who would be.
Yeah, he's checked down city.
He's young, and the coordinator's new, right? So it'd be one thing if you were young in the system and everybody around you was already, understanding the system, but it's brand new to everybody.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of solid confidence there in the offense in general. I know that. So because I know that, if you get them disrupted, if you get them behind the chains a little bit, there's not the chances are you're going to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Right. They haven't had enough experiences where they climb themselves out of a hole, or they climb themselves out of a deep funk, or a lack of communication or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing I know, or another thing that I know about them, is that their defense is really, really good.
Yeah. And they have been. I mean, they just flush with NFL talent.
They're really, really good. And so that's a known. But are they, the defense is really good, but I don't know that the defense can win this game.
Yeah. So switching sides, Vince, to Florida State, what we know. I'm going to say what we know for a fact is that Jordan Travis will have a big game. You look at every big game he's been in the last, few years. when it's prime time, when the lights are on, my man puts up numbers over 300 yards, over 3 touchdowns, rushing for 50 to sometimes 100 yards. I mean, the guy, when it's time to run, he saves it for these games. We saw it last year against Florida, where without his legs, I'm not sure we win that game. And so I think we know that we will utilize Jordan's athleticism for the first time this year with called plays for his legs. That's what I know.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to bet against that. All things being equal, if everybody is healthy and he's got the right guys in front of him, actually, even if he doesn't have the right guys in
he will
front of
still
him,
make it happen.
he's gonna make some plays, and he always does. So yeah, absolutely on that. And what else do we know about our team? We know that our team is not going to be heavily penalized.
Yeah.
We know that our receiving core is deep. Those are things we know, right? And it's kind of, you say, well, why didn't that show up in the last week? And every week is different. But I know that Jordan will play well. I know that our receiving core is deep enough to create mismatch.
Yeah.
You cannot just pick the one guy and say, this is the guy we got to stop.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't know. I don't know if we have solved any running game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a concern for sure. The running game, 100% has been a concern. What's nice is, though, going back to our Mike Norvell draws up really good game plans against good opponents, is that even when we were not good, Vince, up front and had nothing on the offensive line 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even with that, and when we had literally Malik McClain being our best receiver, Vince, like our number one receiver is Malik McClain, and now he couldn't even crack the roster if he wanted to since leaving. Still, Mike Norvell schemed guys wide open.
Yeah,
in big games, and we saw it in LSU where he schemed guys open one-on-one matchups. If you do that, we win. If you get one-on-one matchups, I trust our receivers more than I trust their DBs.
Ryan, he was scheming people wide open 2 years ago.
Yeah, with nothing on the offensive line.
Just like you said, with nothing on the offensive line, and pretty average receiving.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we know that. That's another thing we know. We know that at any, 3 or 4 times during this game, the ball's going to be in the air to one of our guys, and you're going to look around that person, and there's not going to be anyone within 15 yards of it.
And you're going to be like, look at that. What a thing of beauty.
And hands catch the ball, and then see what happens from there.
Yeah. So let's get to it, Vince. I mean, let's get to prediction time. This is going to be the closest prediction I've had all year. I was near dead on with the LSU game, almost to exact score. I missed it by the last second touchdown by LSU. We were both pretty close for Southern Miss, and then we were both way off for Boston College, which a lot of people were. So for this game, I am picking Florida State to win. I think it helps that it's a nooner, I think, to not be in an 8 p.m. kick at Clemson, like with the crowd environment. It's a whole different environment when people have been drinking all day. It really is. I mean, when it's night out and everything. I picked Florida State 35-31.
Okay. Yeah. Mark it down. You got it? I'm picking Florida State 38-24.
So you are putting a little bit more faith in our offense and a little more faith in our defense than I am. I'm thinking this is what I'm really excited about? One thing I should have brought up in what I know about Clemson, their kicker sucks.
So much so that they had to go grab somebody from Home Depot, I think. I don't know where the guy was working, but they brought him out of retirement to be the kicker. So how about that?
So my thinking is the 35-31, Clemson has some opportunities in which normally a field goal would be the call from the 35 or 40-yard line, and they're forced to go for it on fourth down because they have no confidence that a kicker can make the kick. And that turns into stops, and we get the ball turnover on downs. I could see that happening once or twice. And Vince, I don't leave out the possibility because we've proven to be good on special teams when it comes to kickoffs. I mean, kicking and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if we get one, we block one, because they've been doing a lot of the kickers have been kicking really low from Clemson, like line drives, and that's just asking for a hand to go up. And if that happens, man, this could get ugly quick. So I'm hoping, Vince, that it's more of a blowout than I predicted. But I'm just going close game. But I think we end the week 4-0, headed into a bye, feeling really good about the program.
Yeah, think about this, Ryan. They've got Shipley.
Mm-hmm.
They've got talent in the wide receiving core, but one of their main talents is done for the
Yeah.
Which no one wants that to be the case, but it did happen. Where is all this offense going to come from?
It's Shipley or bust, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, and there may be some guys that are going to make household names for themselves this week. You never know.
Yeah.
But looking at it, coming into this game, their receiving core doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
Our defensive backs are good enough. I mean, I wouldn't say they're elite, but they're good enough. And if Akeem Dent's back, I don't know if that's going to happen.
I hope he is. He's on the depth chart, but
that's a big deal. But their offense doesn't scare me.
No, not at all.
Our offense can be downright scary. And if they get rolling, especially if they can get the running game going, I think we're going to pull away in this game. And again, the caveats are always there, right? Who's healthy, who's there, who's not.
Now, Vince, I wanted to bring up something in relation to the kind of overall vibe going into this game. Earlier this week, I watched the We Are Number One documentary on the 1999 National Championship wire-to-wire team on ACC Network. Have you watched it yet, Vince?
I have watched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What struck me, and listen, I've watched replays of that season for years, and it's always fun to go back. But watching that documentary, Vince, that team was so loaded, right? Had so much talent. There was multiple times in that documentary, multiple games, where they did not play up to the standard against teams that they should have beaten. It wasn't at Georgia Tech that it was like
it was a back and forth
till the end. Like they pulled it out at the very end, and that's with Chris Wenke and Peter Rourke out there, and Warwick Dunn and everything. I mean, it's a loaded team. Yeah. And I look at those scores, and I'm like, the last, of course, national championship team, we got spoiled because it was every game was just destruction. But 99 was an amazing team, one of the best of all time, and they had some games against teams that they should have dominated that they did not perform up to standard. Now, it's easy to look at that hindsight and be like, yeah, they just had an off game, and then look at us against Boston College and say, was it a problem or was it an off game? I'm going to lean more towards it was an off game and that's not really us, similar to how the 99 team struggled in some of those games.
Yeah, I mean, the adversity that the 99 team went through with the amount of games that were close, I mean, they continuously, pulled it out.
Yeah.
Did what needed to be done. And, there was a game or two there where Peter Work wasn't even playing.
Yeah, he was the Miami game he was out for.
Right. So yeah, I mean, in the moment, right now, we're kind of living through this 23 season, the 23 team. And we look at the Boston College game and we're all pulling whatever hair we have out. But then if you look back and you look at the 93 team, they lost a game.
Yeah.
You look at the 99 team and they beat Clemson by 3 points. They went back and forth with the Georgia Tech team. Right. So it's probably,
it's college football.
It's college football. And you you don't know what's going to happen from week to week when you're talking about 18 to
Yeah.
22, 23-year-olds.
See Alabama against USF.
When I'm predicting kind of a pull away, I think the majority of the game is going to be relatively close.
Yeah.
And then at the end, Clemson's just not going to have enough to keep up.
Well, Vince, it's going to be an exciting game. We can't wait for it. We're on to one of our favorite subjects, our pick'ems of the week. So, Vince, I'm going to hit it once again.
How'd you do at the tables last night?
I'm about even.
Here's an idea. Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? Then we'll go out back, I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
Always fun, Vince, to get a little pick'em action. Am I right?
It's a lot of fun. We've added we've got an additional pick for this week.
We absolutely do. We love to do this pick'em section, but let's start off with our ACC games first, Vince. 2-1 NC State goes to Virginia. Oof, Virginia, man, rough times for the Cavaliers, Vince. Rough times. I got NC State covering with the W and covering the 9.5.
Yeah, I will say I think NC State's going to win. I don't think they're going to cover this.
Ooh, man, that's calling into question the old Wolfpack, huh?
I think it's more of, Virginia is due for a little bit of a decent game.
For sure. I think this is a fun one. Anytime Army plays anyone, I always like. And something about the Armed Forces. I love them playing the games, but they're not going to be Syracuse. I take Syracuse and I take 13 points.
Yeah, I think I'll take Syracuse here too, and I don't think they're going to cover.
Interesting pick here. 1 and 2 Vodtech. The times are hard in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Are they not playing Beamer ball anymore?
Mike Vick is no longer there, Vince. Times are dark right now for that team. Playing 2-0 Marshall. Now this is to me it was a surprising line with Marshall by 4.5. I'm gonna pick for Marshall to win the game, but I don't think they cover. I think it's a 3-point game.
Yeah, I think Marshall will win. I think they will cover.
Nice, Vince. We're both taking the.
We are.
What would normally be an upset, Vince.
Here. We are diverging paths.
In most years, this would be a 100% Virginia Tech win, but not this year. Old Hokies. Sorry, Connor, one of our friends. It's tough times.
Someone needs to wake the Sandman up.
Yeah, he hasn't. He didn't even show up. He never entered.
He never entered. He just went right to bed.
All right, number 18, 3-0 Duke, which I'm actually surprised they haven't gotten a little bit more love in the polls. I like this Duke team. I actually think they're a very good team. UConn sucks. If you watch any of their games this year, they're terrible. They are terrible. I take Duke hammering UConn. I'm going to say, Vince, it's a 30-plus point victory.
Yeah, it's tough, man. UConn's pretty bad. I see. Yeah, that's a lot of points. Yeah, okay. Duke covers.
Miami padding the resume this week, man. Miami will be back after a 4-0 start because Temple and a couple other games that they played that were cupcakes. Number 20 in the country. Next week, who knows? Maybe they'll be 15. I take Miami here, and they will cover, but a confident yet, I guess, overzealous Miami fan base as they go to 4-0.
Yeah, I think Miami will win. I don't think they're going to cover this. Going away, although, their teammates or the guys on the team love to play away from the stadium. So maybe they will, but Miami wins, does not cover.
Man, rough times, man. Let's go to BC, the team that almost scared us and ruined our entire season. Vince, I'm actually picking an upset here. I think Boston College inspired Vince by the performance against the mighty Noles, come to Louisville and upsets Louisville. I actually think I can't wait to watch this in because I want to see if BC's quarterback can run and throw like he did randomly out of nowhere against us. Let's see how it goes. But I picked BC with the upset.
If BC only has half the penalties that they had in this past week, they have a chance of winning this game. However, I think Louisville will win, but I do not think they're going to cover the spread.
Very good, sir. 1-2 Georgia Tech versus the mighty Wake Forest Demon Deacons at 3-0. How about Wake? Starting off the year without their star quarterback, who's now at Notre Dame. They're doing some things there too. Give me Wake to cover here easily. I actually pick Wake here by if I were to pick, probably 10 points. I don't like what I see from Georgia Tech.
Wake will cover. I'll go there. I was tempted to go Georgia Tech, but I'll just go Wake to cover.
Sneaky good game here, Vince. Number 17, North Carolina at 3-0. Heisman hopeful. Drake May, quarterback. He's not been playing as well as he had hoped at 1-2 Pitt. Vince, very important here. Very important. At Pittsburgh. When you go to play at Pitt, as we know, Vince, it's never easy. I am picking Pitt to upset North Carolina because every year, Vince, every single year with North Carolina, they get beat by someone with a good defense or even a decent defense, and I see this game as a trap game for North Carolina. Give me Pitt in the win.
Pitt has not looked good, and Drake May has done well enough without Tez Walker. I think North Carolina is going to win this game, and I think they will cover here.
Bonus pick time, Vince, because as all of you know or don't know out there, Vince's daughter attends Georgia Southern. He's even got the flag back there. So as a bonus pick 'em this week, Georgia Southern at Ball State, getting the 6-point nod there. I'm going to say they do win and they cover.
Oh, absolutely going to win here, and they are going to cover. Ball State is not great. Georgia Southern actually had a chance last week against Wisconsin, but the quarterback, Davis Brin, threw 5 interceptions, I believe, in that game, which is a toughie. So that will get you beat, but we'll take Georgia Southern covering.
It sure will, Vince. Well, that's all for the picks. Yeah. Oh, Shannon, Vince's very own lovely wife, commenting on our show. Have we been? No, we have.
Well, we could always go back and look at the videos.
We should go back,
which we're going to do. So we have them. We have them for historical purposes. Maybe for the next show, we'll kind of get a where we are, like a State of the Union, where we are with the picks.
Well, the good news, Vince, is that not only do we have it recorded, of course, but next week is being the bye week. We're gonna have some time, to maybe crunch some numbers, right? And hopefully we're 4-0, and we want to go back and review what our results were from a win-loss perspective, because it is important, Vince. And I'm interested to see who's in the lead. Who would you guess, Vince, is in the lead?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I'm gonna say you're in the lead.
I think I'm slightly in the lead. Slightly.
Well, everyone, one thing I do want to mention before we hit the end button for the night, it's been a great show, is thank you to Fishweir Brewing Company. This past week, we did a live show for the Boston College game. Tons of people showed up. Some former Chiefs playing, including yourself, Vince. It was a really great time, and they were really great hosts to us. But we're going to do it again. We are going to do it again. October 28th, we're doing the Wake Forest game at Fishweir Brewing Company. The time has not yet been announced, the TV time yet. We're hoping for 3:30 or later to have, it's a brewery, right? I mean, did we have a beer at noon? Yes. But did the place definitely would have benefited from a later start date, of course.
Let's just say as that game started to wear on and things started to look a little dicey, Stacy, one of the owners, decided to come by us and give us some rally beers, which in the grand scheme of things, if you were notching how many I had at that point, this would probably have been the fourth one. Oof. And I don't think I needed a fourth beer, but maybe the team did need that fourth beer, the rally beer for the win.
Absolutely. And Vince, because of the October 28th date there, the odds are we get to do the show from the patio with some beautiful weather, hopefully, right? Fingers crossed.
I mean, the weather's already starting to turn a little bit here, and listening outside, a little bit of rain happening, which means the temperature's going to drop a little bit, even more.
Two things I've noticed already, Vince. When I go for my walks before work in the morning, it's been much cooler, a little bit of a breeze in the air, and then no more cicadas. When the cicadas stop at making their noises, it's something happening. Some leaves starting to fall. So, listen, it's not by any means fall weather yet, but in the morning times, it has been nice to not sweat while you're walking.
It is nice to not sweat. It's better to be cool. Because
You get that? The whole store got the flu.
Because when you got the flu, you're all sweaty, you're not feeling too good. Little cooler weather makes it better.
I want to remind everyone, just like we do every single week during the season, we will do a pre and post game show for the Clemson game. So, Vince, I imagine we do the pre-game around 11 a.m. ish, maybe 10:30, depending. We'll announce it, and we'll schedule it, and then a post-game show immediately following the game to give our instant reaction, and then we'll do of course, our normal Garnet and Old and V Drive and off the cuff shows next week. But yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff, whole lot of content. So if you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe because we got a lot of stuff for all of you coming up. And Vince,
not to mention
or
are you going to mention it?
If you do subscribe, do it post haste, because if we get to 2,000 subscribers by the Miami game, we're going to raffle off 2 Miami tickets with parking pass here on live on the air on Garnet and Old. So tell your friends, tell your family. But Vince, what a pleasure it's been doing this again. Hopefully, Vince, this year is 4-0, and we are on the way thinking national championship, right? The reality is, Vince, if they're 4-0, my mind goes from potential playoff team to we could win the national championship with how everyone else has looked around the country.
For sure. Knowles, my brothers, we're strong. We're 3-0. And after this weekend, we're going to be 4-0.
Well, Vince, I'm strong if you strong. So we strong then.
We are strong then. This has been Garnet and Old.
No inside info, no contacts, no problem. Go Knowles.
Go Knowles.
Beat the pants off Clemson.
Send Chiefs all the damn time.
Send the Chiefs all the damn time. Thanks.